You are used to making big films with big stars like Salman Khan and showing action, very big scale. Jogi must have been a very different experience for you.
Yes, the other films are big in scale and budget, but Jogi has a very big heart.
How did you stumble upon this story?
A lot of people feel that there is only one story when a tragedy like this happens. But when you interact with people, when you do research, you understand there were multiple stories in those 3 days.
What did you think? You thought he will do it because this, it's tricky also for a Sardar to do this role.
When they asked Diljit what interested him, he said, "Paji, ये तो कहानी हमारी है."
What did Diljit say? Like the people you were working were so many from Punjab. What did they say?
This film is not pointing fingers at anyone. It's about selfless, struggle of what that community stands for.
Ali, welcome to Bollywood Hungama. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Ali, my first question to you is, you are used to making big films with big stars like Salman Khan and showing action, very big scale. Jogi must have been a very different experience for you.
Yes, it is. It is, and it was. Yeah, I always feel that every story has a different, science and um, process of telling. Jogi required a different kind of sensibility altogether. Yes, the other films are big in scale and budget, but Jogi has a very big heart.
Yeah.
So, and I just wanted to explore that side of me. That can I do justice to something which is pure, honest, raw, and is different from the other films that I have done before.
Right.
So yes, as a storyteller, you always want to do unexplored genres, try to do something new every time, and Jogi is just a step forward in that direction.
Right. It is one of the most important stories to tell to a newer generation. How did you stumble upon this story, this particular story of Jogi?
So I've been born and raised in northern India, and especially did my college at Delhi University. And if you are going to school in northern India, you will have friends who come from different religious identities. You have families who you interact with, and 84 was always there around me. I was just 2 years old when it happened, but when you are in your teens, some family got affected. So you know about what happened in 84. And obviously, when you grow, you read about what is happening around you. This is one chapter that is very which has not been explored too much. We've done a lot of stuff around partition, but we have not done a lot of stuff around 84.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel that there is only one story when a tragedy like this happens. But when you interact with people, when you do research, you understand there were multiple stories in those 3 days.
Right.
And when we started doing that, we understood that something very beautiful can come out of this chaos. A story that talks about hope, a story that talks about sacrifice, a story that talks about friendship. So once all of that happened, we wrote like a 2-page story, and then I told Himanshu, who's my partner, that yeah, the only one person who can pull this off is Diljit, because the central character has to be masoom, he has to be vulnerable, he has to be strong, and yet in a very non-heroic way, hero. He's a guy who rises to the occasion.
Right.
He's not a quintessential hero that we see in Bollywood films. So I picked up the phone, I called him, and he heard the narration in like 6 to 10 minutes, and he said, Paji, I'm doing the film.
Wow, that's so cool. Right.
Yeah, and somewhere or the other, I think he also knew about these stories, you
Right.
know.
Of course, do. Right.
So I asked him, you know, there is anything that you find objectionable, something that you don't relate to, and he says, "Paji, sab sahi hai,
Sab
sab
sahi
sahi
hai.
hai,
Right.
sab sab."
Before we come to Diljit, because there's so much to talk about him, do you want to tell the viewers, is this fiction? Is this particular story, I believe you and Sukhmani have written this,
Yeah,
is this based on someone? Do you all know people who were?
the environment of the film is real,
Real,
as we all
yes.
know,
Right.
but the main story is an amalgamation of fiction and lot of real life survivor stories,
Okay.
which we found through Sukhmani herself is a Sardar, so
Right.
she had a
Yes.
lot of extended family
Mm.
who went through the chaos in
Right.
'84. A lot of first-hand informations are there as documented, facts available in books, in archives. So lot of those stories came from there. And then around that we weaved this plot of saving lives, and how does it happen, and how does these friends come together, this man rises to an occasion, and how they're doing it, you know.
Right.
So we kind of made it that it should be believable, it should be sensitive, and at the same time it should make people understand that there is an alternative reality
Right.
which happens, you know, which is about saving people's lives when you need them the most, you
Right.
know. And it is a pattern that uh, would have get like can follow in any country, you know.
Right.
You know, whether it's the first war, second war, partition, you know, it's the same pattern.
Right.
And in that pattern, someone has to rise up to an occasion to save a life.
Right. So you
And
all
this
did that.
and this is that film,
Okay.
you know.
Right. So when you told your partner and you all decided that you need someone like Diljit, what did you think? You thought he will do it because this, it's tricky also for a Sardar to do this role. They are so many are so emotional about this subject. Were you thinking that will he agree, not agree?
Yes, I was thinking about it, and that is why I wanted a confidence from an actor who represent a certain community and who is loved by that community a lot, who himself is very responsible for that
Right.
community, and that is why you know, yesterday when they asked Diljit, you know, what interested him, he said, "Paji, ये तो कहानी हमारी है."
Mm.
You know, so he was more on the forefront of the film because you know, I just gave him the thread and he said, "This is my thread, you know, I will own it, you know, I have to own it because it's about us, you
Right.
know." And I think I was very, very clear that I will not do this film if Diljit does not say yes to the film. You know, he is equal part of this filmmaking process on Jogi. He's just not the actor.
Right.
He was my bouncing board. He was my mirror. He could tell me, you know, what and how can things be done. And yes, and I just went with the flow with him.
Right. I was going to ask you that, if he had not agreed, would you make it? Do you want to explain why is it so important? Because the subject is so, it's such a touchy topic also for many people. Why was it so important to have someone like him?
Well, it is, you know, like I always feel that when you are dealing with sensitive topics,
Right.
you need an extra layer of being careful. You
Mm.
need an extra layer of using your artistic sensibility to enhance an emotion which is justified in the larger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, you need to collaborate with an artist who would do justice because he understands the responsibility of the
Right.
situation. So to get Daljit on board
Mm.
was exactly the same reason. I said, you know, he will be the person who will take that responsibility for me.
Right.
And I think, you know, you've seen the film. I think he's done a very subtle, incredible work in this film. He's restrained and he holds so much of gravity, so much of thrust, uh, that it's just beautiful,
It is. It
it
is.
is. And then that is why I said that, Jogi is a film which has a much bigger heart than the films I've done before.
Right.
They might have bigger box office numbers, but here there is a story which is talking of something which is more pure.
Right, right. No, absolutely. I can, having watched it, I can safely say that, it is all heart and it's made with the right intention, and you'll have done a terrific job. And like you said, he's the one who completely carries it off. Whose validation do you need once this comes out? The community's validation. What did Diljit say? Like, the people you were working were so many from Punjab. What did they say?
Means, everyone who read the script had no problem with the script.
Okay.
No one, because you always usually, and because we write so many scripts, when you give it to people, you understand ke, is it hitting the mark or it's not hitting the mark. And Diljit himself, because he comes from that community, he said there will be nothing which is objectionable in this. Because as he said in the interview yesterday also, he says, Paji, to hamara hai, and this is the truth.
Right.
So then we just went with this kind of an instinct, and our validation is in terms of reception is only that, because we are sending the message of love out, we only need the message of love to come back to us.
Amazing. Right.
Yeah, there is no expectation other than that.
Right.
This film is not pointing fingers at anyone. It is about, it's about selfless, struggle of what that community stands for.
Right.
That's the essence of that community, and that is the essence of Jogi. And what his character does in the film is exactly the same. He's a prototype of what a man who will rise to an occasion to save someone's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.